Hey, John Kavakis here with another edition of My Take. And if you are a Brooklyn collector, have been for a while, then you are familiar with the name Gianluigi Cappi. Noted collector, author, been in the hobby for quite some time, and he graciously agreed to spend some time with us talking about the hobby, talking about his work, and showing us some of his collection. Let's see what Gianluigi has to say.
Gianluigi Cappi, it is so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, John.
I know we have been talking for a long time about doing this, and we were finally able to coordinate schedules.
Yes,
If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you some questions about the hobby and your background. Can we do that today?
sure.
Okay, yeah. How long have now you're noted for your Brooklyn collection. How long
Yes.
have you been collecting Brooklyns?
Well, it's about 20 years. It's
Hmm.
I used to collect 143 model cars, but the die cast because I like convertibles. So I have maybe you can see it in the back of my room. There are a couple of windows with these convertibles that I used to collect. And one day I bought a Chrysler 300 and was different from all the others. And I found out that the name of the producer was Brooklyn. And I said, oh, this is very, very nice car, heavy, well done, everything. So from that point on, I started collecting Brooklyn.
The hobby was different back then.
Oh, yeah.
But in many ways, it was the same because I know when I got started with Brooklyn, they were expensive compared to everything else. They were expensive. Did you see
Yeah,
the same thing?
more expensive than other models. But I thought that the quality was better. So it was worth it anyway.
Yeah, they also had that heft. They were heavy. They
Mm,
felt
yeah,
like they were valuable. And
yeah.
so, did you have a dealer that you bought from?
And the first models I bought from eBay. When I do something, I always try to do it at my best. Could be work, could be hobbies. And so when I started collecting Brooklyn, I said, well, I have to do it at my best. So I contacted, I found out about the club, the BCC. And so I contacted them and I joined the club. That was one of the first things I did. And I asked them if they had somebody to suggest me to buy models. And they gave me the name of Brian Harrison. Do you know, or did you know Brian?
No, I didn't.
Brian Harrison, you didn't meet him? Oh,
Yeah.
unfortunately, now it's not here anymore. But he
Mm.
was a Brooklyn dealer in UK. So I bought several models from him as a start. And also special issues. And so he was one of um, of my first dealers. And then we became friends because I went to UK for the AGMs and I met him there. And so from there on, we had a good relationship.
Oh, fantastic. The over the years, though, you have developed a relationship with the factory as well, haven't you?
Yes, yes. Also because, well, that started with the AGMs because we visited the factory. So I had the chance to know Nigel, to know Amanda, and other people working there. So we established a good relationship. We kept in touch, and when I had some questions, I asked them, and I got to know Roger Matteo. You know Roger Matteo?
Yes.
The He was the founder of the San Francisco Brooklyn Club. When I knew him, he was on the point of closing the club because the club ceased the activity. He was tempted to sell his collection. So I said, well, Roger, why don't you sell it to me? And I bought his collection. And that was really uh, a joy because I received big boxes full of Brooklyns. And I opened these boxes and then I opened the small boxes of each car and select them and compare with what I have. Was really
What an experience that must have been. I'll
yeah.
bet there were some rare
Oh, yeah.
models in there.
Great time. Was hundreds
Yeah.
of models I bought from him because I said, if I don't have them, I keep them. If I have them, I sell them, and that's what I did. In fact,
I
after
love
the
that. Yeah.
long time of selecting and sorting, and I discovered several color variations because maybe I had the same model, it was a different shade. So he had also a few special models, so it was a good thing, and I enjoyed it a lot.
What a treasure trove that must have been.
Yes,
So,
yes.
how many Brooklyns do you have in your collection?
Now I have about 1,300. After I sold those models, I don't have models to sell. Well, actually, because a few years ago, I decided to sell some color variations because I didn't have room for the new models, but I have at least one for each model.
Yeah, I had to promise my wife that I would sell some before I could buy any more because we were running out of room too. So we have a small house in Virginia. What are some of the special models you have?
I have quite a few special models, especially some code 2 or code 3s of old models made by people which I mentioned in my guide, like Harry Bauer or Kit Billinger, or I also have many DMP models by Dean Paolucci. The one I like best came from Roger Matteo because when they made one special, I think, I don't remember the year, but it was Chevrolet Impala, I think. He ordered some 200 pieces from Brooklyn, and when they arrived in San Francisco, the color was not as agreed. Oh. So he sent them back, but he kept one of this wrong color. Brooklyn made them again, so he sent to Roger the right color, but he kept this one wrong one, and I have it because he sold it to me with all his collection. So this
I
is.
remember those. I remember those models. They were great models.
Yeah, the Mets Drive.
But I tell you, things were different back at the factory back then. You know, there were a lot of models that kind of showed up from the factory that we weren't quite sure where they came from, but that might be the type of backstory that allowed these models to be released. I remember that hunt for the models that I wanted in my collection and the ones that were hard to find. That was always an adventure. Do you have models that you still want?
Well, actually, one, because this is also a story that I can tell you. Many years ago, I found on eBay the Harry Bauer code trees of the Pontiac pickup. There were 4 models, and so I bid on them. But there was another collector bidding on the same models. So we ended up fighting for the price, and at the end I got 3 and I missed 1. So I tried to find out who was this guy, but it was impossible. And so he has only 1. And I always try to find it, to ask him if he wants to sell it to me, because I have 3 and I miss 1.
Yeah. I love that type of hunt. I remember this was probably 10, 11 years ago. There was an eBay listing for one of the original resin Pierce arrows. And somebody had worked with John Hall early on and got one of the 2 or 3 that they made. And I got into bidding on that. And I won it for an insane amount of money. And I had the immediate remorse. Oh my gosh, what have I done? And the model came, and I was afraid to show it to my wife. So
I understand.
But I got an email from somebody like you saying, "Hey, you won that model. Would you sell it?" And I went, "No, it's too precious." And they offered me almost twice what I paid for it. And I thought, Well, here's an opportunity to get it out of the house and make some money at the same time. And I still regret selling that model. It was a one of a kind.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's painful to let them go.
I can beat you on that because
Oh yeah.
once, once I saw on eBay a one-of-a-kind model. It was a model from the PCTS, and was one of one. It was a fire car made from a Chevrolet, a little Chevrolet, and it was on sale for 1,700 euros. So it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I must get it. And I got it. Then when I talked to my wife, she said, are you crazy? And I felt guilty. So after a few days of enjoying that model, I put it for sale for the same price, and I got the same price.
You got rescued.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now you also like to modify your models.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. What type of work do you do?
Because, as I said in the beginning, I like convertibles. And so I tried some models which I already have, or I found at a little price on eBay, to make a convertible from a coupe or a Mustang or a sedan. And so I started with that. And lately, I also make some conversion, well, more than conventional repaint of cheap or defective models. That's a good thing. It's not easy, but I like.
Do you have a workshop?
Not really a workshop, but I have a lot of tools, and I have a table where I can work on.
Maybe you can send me some pictures of some of the models you've done.
Yes.
Do you have do you have one model that you is your favorite, one that you prize about everything else?
Well, there are several. I also have several John Robert conversions.
Yeah.
Yes, because during these trips to UK, I got to meet him and we became friends. So we had a good relationships. And he used to make models for other collectors. And so I asked him, well, when you have something that you can personalize, think of me. So when he had some new models, he always contacted me and said, you want this one? Which color? So he made them for me. And he made one especially for me and my wife, because my wife has a business in the nail business. And she likes, her favorite color is fuchsia. Yeah. So John made a model for her in fuchsia with a little figurine of my wife. So that's
oh wow,
favorite.
Yeah, John's just such a great guy.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
been trying to get him to do a series of interviews about the history of Brooklyn, and we did one. We had a really good time together.
Yes,
The next time you talk to him, tell him I'm still looking for him. Yeah. So so you've got this huge collection. You've got some really unique pieces in it. I think you started working on your first collector's book about the same time that I got to know Daniele and some of the changes that were happening at Brooklyn. That first book was a landmark. It was so comprehensive and such a great volume. How long had you been working on that?
Well, actually, the first edition was made in 2013, so much before that, because having this large collection, I decided that I had to take pictures of all my models. So I bought a few spotlights. I made a light box, and so I took all these pictures. And then with Roger Matteo, also with him I had a good relationship. He had some books that he sent me with some descriptions of the models. So I put the two things together and I made the first edition of the Collector's Guide. But that was made just by me, not by Brooklyn, and was a loose page book in a binder. And I sold it I made about 100 copies and I sold it to collectors. Then there was a second edition a few years later, a third edition, and what you mentioned is the fourth edition.
I have that first edition somewhere.
Ah, you do?
I didn't I apologize. I didn't realize you were involved in that. So the one that we're talking about is the hardcover edition.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's the fourth.
I'll tell you something, Gianluigi. You mentioned something that we probably need to point out. When you do these pictures,
I just bought 3 spotlights, which were not very expensive. The light box, I made it myself with cardboard and white paper. So I had the camera, which I use also for work. So it's a good camera, not the telephone. Now all the pictures are with telephones, but the good pictures are still made with a camera. So it's not so expensive.
One of the things that I like about your pictures is that they are uniform. So the model is the center of the picture. They're all similar, and it makes it easy to scroll through them, to look through them, to find the model that you're looking for. And I know that includes some work. That takes some work.
Oh, yes.
So we got to the hardcover edition. How long did it take you to put that book together? That is a massive book.
Yes, but I didn't do that myself. I tell you the story. When Nicola Bulgari bought the company, no, one step before, when I made the first edition of the guide, Nigel wanted 1 copy because in Brooklyn they didn't know so well their past. And so he got a copy of the book, so he had all the story of the old models. And when Nicola Bulgari bought the company, he saw my book, the previous edition, and he said, "Oh, well, that's a very good thing. I want to do it professionally." So that was done by Nicola Bulgari. So we made an agreement. I gave him all the text, all the pictures, and that was made by a professional printer. So that's why it's quite different from the other editions.
It's a beautiful book. And again, it's massive and has so much information in it, but it took you years to accumulate that.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Because I kept track of what was coming out. And so, in fact, I made also some updates. You see, there is a volume updates 1 and the 2 that I made beginning of this year. But also in the past, every new model was, I kept track of any new models, took pictures, put it aside, ready for the next edition of the guide.
And we appreciate it. We appreciate it. You've also done the Lansdowne.
Yes.
You had
Daniele told me, you made 1 book, but Brooklyn is also another production. And so I said, okay, let's make another book with the European cars. But that was a little more difficult because I don't collect those models. So the problem was finding the pictures. And from that, I had a few collectors that helped me sending pictures. I also contacted Amanda and she sent me pictures from their archive. And so I put all the pictures together to make the second volume. But these are not made by myself.
So recently, you produced another update to the Brooklyn Collectors Guide.
Yes.
That was update number 2. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Now that book was there was a lot of excitement about that book when you released it, and I know there were only a limited number of copies. But if I remember correctly, pardon me?
It's sold out.
It's sold out.
I,
Do you have
yeah.
Do you have any left?
No, just my copy.
Okay, I've got some copies.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, well, you very graciously sent some over so that we could distribute them here in the United
Yeah.
States, and I still have some left. So they'll show up at the shows we do.
To tell you that the update volume 1 was made
Yeah.
by Brooklyn, I mean by Nicola Bulgari. And volume 2, I asked them if they wanted to do it. They said no, we don't have money. So I did it myself, and I made just a few copies. Was 80 copies.
Well, and again, we appreciate it. It's great to have something like that you can hold on to. It's on your desk. You can pick it up and look at it really quick.
Yeah.
I've got mine right behind me here. They're right on my bookcase.
Mhm.
So I keep them. When I see something on eBay that maybe I haven't seen before, the first thing I do is open up the book. So you mentioned Mr. Bulgari. I think he's one of us. I've had the honor to meet him twice, and
Oh,
all he wants to talk about are
I still
all he
think
wants to
that,
talk about are cars.
yeah.
Yeah. So he loves the hobby.
Mm.
And he's a pretty fascinating guy. I think we owe much to him
Yeah.
for keeping Brooklyn vital. But I think the neatest thing is, you're in Italy, I'm here in the United States. You have this passion for American cars.
Yeah.
He has that passion for
Right.
American cars. He tells a story of growing up in occupied Italy, and how when the American forces came in, he saw American cars on Italian streets and
Yeah.
fell in love with them. So I've been up to the NB Center several times, and that place is filled with average American cars that
Yeah.
have been meticulously restored. So we're kind of spread out all over the world, but we have the same passion. We have the same interest, and I can see that in you. And I think one of the things that I admire about you is your drive to contribute something to the hobby.
Brooklyn has become part of my life. For not only for collecting, but also for all the people I met. I made friends. Now I know you, and I met several people in UK. Very nice people. I enjoyed staying with them. The only one I still didn't have a chance to meet is Nicola Bulgari. Also because in spite of living in Italy, but he's in Rome and I'm in Milano. I visited the Rome garage because when I made the agreement for the collector's guide, he invited me to Rome to see his garage with all these beautiful cars. And there is another location in Sarteano, which is in Tuscany, and I also went there, and I took a ride on a old Buick, one of his old Buick. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, he loves Buicks.
Yeah.
The collection over here is it's in a beautiful facility over here. I
Yeah.
know in Rome things are a little bit cramped, but I'd love to come and visit sometime. You've seen a lot of changes. We're all hopeful that Brooklyn will do well as they go forward. They've gone through some painful processes, but for the hobby in general, 143rd in particular, what do you see ahead? What do you think will be happening as we go forward?
You can see that Brooklyn is limiting its production, and with this joining as a SMTS probably has helped Brooklyn, but not so much because now they also have other production which is not Brooklyn, and they have to go ahead with both. So Brooklyn is I hope it will become more important in the future. But,
I think the thing that encourages me is the white metal 143rd segment of the hobby is still alive.
Yeah, sure.
And you know, there's nothing that quite matches a 1/43 white metal model. In the past, they were noted for being heavy and very charming,
Yeah.
but not necessarily very accurate. But now it seems like we're getting the best of all
Oh,
that.
yes. Yes.
Yeah. Have you seen the 46 Pontiac?
See, yes, I have one.
Yeah, it's a beautiful model.
Yes. Yes.
It's stunning. Um,
Yeah.
that, and you know, for those people that had the opportunity to buy the new Caribbean, there's another batch coming out.
Ah,
You know, these are everything that we ever wanted from white metal. They're well finished, they're
yeah.
detailed, um, and for what they are, you've been to the factory.
Yeah.
You see what goes into making one of these.
Oh, sure.
There's an incredible amount of man hours used in putting them together. They're a pretty good value. My hope is that white metal continues to thrive. Sometime we'll get together again and we'll talk about these new
Yeah.
production levels and
Yes.
what impact they might have on some of the older models. But I've been encouraged, and I've been encouraged by some of the things you've contributed as well. And I share your passion.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to tell us before we end?
We didn't talk about the history of Brooklyn book. I put a lot of, even if it's not many pages, I put a lot of work in it because I had to collect information, the pictures, because there are not only pictures of models. I have pictures of John Hall, of Nigel Parker, or Simon, and so on. So, and some of the buildings were Brooklyn had its location. So, and also the format of the book, which is a little different from usual, since that was made by myself, not by a professional printer. It took me a lot of time to do it.
I had my questions about that book before it came out, but you managed to put an incredible amount of information in that book.
Also in the past, but this was the occasion for the 50th anniversary, so it was a good time to do it.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see a bigger celebration, and that book would be part of it. Now, once again, we distributed some of those books over here. You distributed some over there. Do you have any left?
Yes, I have just a few. I think about 10 left, not many.
Ah, okay. And what I'll do, Gianluigi, is I'll put up your email on the screen. So if anybody's interested in that book, they can contact you.
Yeah.
I know the people that I've distributed it to over here are really thrilled with the book. It's a quality piece. You've done a magnificent job of putting that together. And again, it shows your dedication to the hobby. It shows your passion for the hobby. Are you planning anything in the future?
I had another project that I wanted to go ahead with it, but that I talked to, you mentioned Daniele before. Maybe not everybody knows who Daniele is, and you can explain who he is. I was planning to make several volumes, small, very small volumes, 10, 15 pages, not more, dedicated to one brand, showing all the models that Brooklyn made for that brands. For instance, Cadillac or Buick or any other brands. And showing the models not from the model side, but from the real car side. So otherwise it would be a duplicate of the collector's guide. And I was working on that, and this is in my computer. Maybe one day I'll take it out.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. I think it's a great idea, and I hope you're able to do that.
But to complete that, the best thing would do that Brooklyn, that was my idea, made one model. For instance, let's talk about Cadillac. So we have a little book about Cadillac, Brooklyn can choose one of the old models of Cadillac. So not a new one, just they should have the mold already. So make the model in a new color and sell the model with the book.
What a great idea. I love that. Yeah. So this has been a joy. Thank you for spending time with me. I'll put up, once again, I'll put your contact information up on the screen.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for what you've contributed to the hobby. I want to thank you for what you've contributed to Brooklyn Collectors. You know, we're a very special group of people. Thank you very much.
John, thank you very much also because, as I said, Brooklyn is my life, so I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And especially when I realize that collectors appreciate my work. And that's what makes me go on this. And I say, if I tell you one more thing, then you can cut it if it's not important. One of the collectors who bought my books said, I would like to have a model made by you. And I said, well, usually I personalize models, but I do it for myself. Oh, please do a model for me. So I had a spare Pontiac Bonneville, and I said, if you want, I can do it for you. Which color? Pink. I like pink. I want a pink model. So I made a pink Pontiac Bonneville for him, and last week I sent him, and I think he's very pleased. I probably will receive it today, looking at checking number. So I'm waiting for his comments. But that's the first model I made for somebody else.
Amazing, amazing. Maybe it's a new career.
Yeah. No, I don't want to take the work of John.
I hear you. I hear you. Okay, we'll make sure that you don't get overwhelmed with requests. Yeah, I know that happened to John Roberts. He got so busy, and now he's unable to make the models anymore. But he'd like to. He would like to. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, John.
Thank you, John, very much to you, and I really appreciate this.
So there we have Gianluigi Cappi, fascinating individual, passionate Brooklyn collector. If you want a copy of his History of Brooklyn, let him know. I've got a couple copies too. Touch base with me if you're interested. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked the video, give me a like down there. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. I've got some more coming up, a couple more interviews too, so keep your eyes open and look forward to seeing you again soon.